The Power Four, I guess you could say, were released, the final college football playoff ranking. And Timmy B, look, like I said yesterday, and I know this has been talked about to death now that it's been released, but I try and take a sociopathic view of it. No feelings. Doesn't matter the brand. It's about the team and who is being able to separate who is the most deserving between maybe who the best four teams are. And that's a tough thing to argue, but I think it's the right thing. And I think the committee ended up getting it right in the top four, not only who they chose, but the seeding of where they put them as well. What say you?
They did. And there are so many, again, the reaction to it's the problem. I thought the committee finally got a grasp of what we had been talking about and pounding the pavement about for so long. Pure playoff privilege now is going to be going out the door because we know we're going to 12. The committee members know we're going to 12. All right. So it is about getting the teams that are the best teams, yes. But let's look at those resumes and look at them closely. And it's the reaction to it that, once again, is my issue. The dumbed down narrative from a very lazy media that doesn't cover so much of college football. You mentioned the transfer portal. Why isn't there coverage of what was going on yesterday? I was leaving Boise, Idaho after the Mountain West Championship, and I'm flying to DFW and then on home. The running backs coach, the defensive coordinator are both on the plane. Why? It's time to get back to work. Yeah. You know, the portal is underway. Guys have been hugging their coaches. Senior night, they were doing one of these. You know, I think I've got a year of eligibility, but I think I may be testing the portal. You know, that's going on. Who's really covering and answering? Nobody. Why? Because it takes time and because you got to make an investment into it. And then the other narrative is, well, you know, nice little story, TCU. But, you know, you'd be a 5-point, 6-point, 8-point underdog against Alabama. I don't care. If we chose teams like Alabama based on what Vegas thought, then why even play the playoff? Nick would have won 15 national titles. I think the only time he's been an underdog, against Georgia? Last couple of times they played? That's it. Okay, so we can't base it on that. We have way too many people given a platform to discuss college football on mainstream media that don't give a rat's patoot about the sport. And they're just throwing out brand crap, which is exactly the point that I've been making for the last 25 years. And it's sad, but that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, well, and again, I have no problem with Nick Saban going on and trying to get his team in the playoff. That's his job. I get it. I know that's not what you're saying, Timmy B. I know. Yeah. But if that was the case of what Vegas had favored, Michigan is a 7-point underdog to Georgia right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. So why even play that game?
No. I want to play.
Just go ahead and give Georgia the national championship game then. If we're going to look at it like that.
Exactly. Lost.
Yeah, and I do also, before I throw it over to Cone, which is a funny quarterback euphemism considering he's the one who played quarterback. When it comes down to the transfer portal, Timmy B, we talked about this in the open of the show. Now it is very even between the coaches and players. Anybody can leave and go anywhere at any point in time. And now that you've entered the business, the little bit of the empathy for the players is kind of going away because now you've gotten what you want. There is no advantage to the coach, to the player, whatever. But the only problem I have with it is I am not a fan of being able to transfer within the same conference and within the same division of the same conference without the head coach being gone or the athletic director being gone, whether that's fired or taking another job, without having to sit out a year. If you want to go to LSU to Utah, that's fine. If you want to go to Middle Tennessee to UConn, that's fine. But I have a problem with no coaching changes and guys going like, Eli Ricks did last year, or somebody go like a Jaheim Bell from South Carolina may go to Alabama without having to sit a year. I think that's one rule that if I could wave a magic wand and change one thing about it, that would be it. What say you?
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. And we need regulations, and I think we are going to get there. Okay. We are now past the midterms. We do not have one party in play. But we are seeing, a move that I think is a nonpartisan move on the part of a number in Congress that want to, have some regulations put to the portal and to NIL. And you really can't do anything to NIL until you do something about the portal. Mm-hmm. All right, the two have to cohabitate. So I think we're going to have a very active offseason, very active, maybe more than even a year ago. All right, so we're going to see realignment come back into the forefront. All right. The teams that played, by example, in the Mountain West out on the blue field where Spencer and I were over the weekend, Terry Toomey, their athletic director, who grew up in Tulsa with Spencer, told him, hey, man, we are going to work right now. Okay, we are going to work right now. And so what's left of the Mountain West with Craig Thompson leaving, I don't know what it'll be. Pac-12's got to get to work, and the Big 12 has made no bones about the fact that they are coming after a lot of those teams. I think the Deion Sanders hire is one to really, really watch, fellas.
Yeah.
Because at first glance, when I saw that, I thought to myself, Colorado, their academician circumstances and the history that they've had post Gary Barnett. There are a lot of layers to the political bureaucracy in that particular blue state. And I was thinking, we might see something here. Sounds to me as though the direction may be going someplace else. Be aware that for Deion Sanders to go there and to leave Jackson State, he needed to see that there was something there in terms of commitment to athletics, the likes of which maybe they haven't had during all of these last few hires, the Durrell hire. And obviously prior to that, Mel Tucker, who was only there for 1 year, vacated the premises. I mean, he couldn't get out of there fast enough. So my guess is they are looking to relocate, as would be perhaps Utah and the 2 Arizona schools. The fact that the television deal is underway for the Big 12, they know they're going to be on Fox and ESPN on linear television. Each of those schools making, by the way, $7 million more per team than they did even with Texas and Oklahoma in the conference. Now if they want to entertain going out and getting a few more schools, now's the time to do it. And Kliavkoff is working hard to offset that with maybe some streaming deals to go along with a network deal. All of this is in play in the off season. So I think that they may very well, Colorado may very well be going back to the Big 12 to play its college football. We will see. But the commitment to the game has got to be there for them to have hired Deion, or he wouldn't have left. That guy's been blazing trails since he signed for $1 million with George Steinbrenner and competed as an amateur in football. You know, I will never forget one day on the original game day, long before you guys were born, he came on with a Trans Am that looked like Smokey and the Bandit with the T-tops open, and he said, "Hi, Tim Brando. How you likes me now?" I mean, he's unbelievable. I'm telling you, he will be successful, and he wouldn't have taken this step if he didn't have some assurances that they mean business and they're going to let him do what he needs to do to win football games.
Man, I didn't even think
that is interesting about them going back to the Big 12, because don't they open with TCU next season? Colorado?
Yeah.
I think that's what the schedule said. They open with TCU. Tim, the Heisman Trophy finalists are set. We got Caleb Williams, Max Duggan, C.J. Stroud, and Stetson Bennett. No Hendon Hooker on that list. No Blake Corum on that list. Michael Penix Jr., I know they can only take so few. What are your thoughts on the Heisman finalists?
I wish that the guys that are banged up could still get invited. You know, I do, but I think now with so many votes coming in by way of the computer, and I do wait. I mean, anybody that's voting early, in my mind, is just you're really not keeping up. You're making a regional vote if you're doing that. I mean, the ballots come out, you know, prior to the championship weekend, but I certainly don't vote until after all the precincts, as I like to say, are reporting. But because those two guys really deserve, I think, a trip to New York. In the old days, I think they would have had that. I think because of the social media aspect of what's going on and people using their computers to electronically put in their vote, they probably didn't get enough votes to get invited. But I have no problem with the ones that were. And I think that there's a very good chance that we're going to see not just a runaway, but maybe another example of what can happen with media hype at the end of the year. I think Caleb Williams is likely to win it. I can't tell you who I voted for, or they'll strip me of my vote that I've had for a quarter of a century.
Tim, you have to tell us now. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't want to tell you now. But that kid that laid it all on the line in the Big 12, I mean, he should have had the ball at the half-yard line, or I think they would have scored. But what an effort to really carry his team the way he did. And this was a backup quarterback that a couple of years ago thought he might not be playing college football ever again. So I think that the push might be from Duggan, but Caleb Williams, because he played at USC, and think about it, he did a remarkable job in just 1 year. Got to give Lincoln Riley a lot of credit. Tell me a coach, if Caleb does win it, and I'm not sure that he will, but if he happens to, and he might, Lincoln Riley would then have coached how many quarterbacks, the Heisman trophies?
3.
At separate schools at two different schools now. And I don't know that that's ever happened.
Tim,
does that know that that's ever happened in the history of the sport at two different schools?
Yeah, I can't remember it. I can't remember it ever happening. Does that make you question, though, can Lincoln Riley actually win the big one if you've coached 3 different Heisman guys and you haven't won a game in the playoff? I think at USC he can get it done. I think he's going to win a national championship at USC. But do you question, I mean, I'm watching Garrett Riley choke at the end. I'm watching Lincoln Riley continue to choke at the end. Somebody give these brothers the Heimlich or they're never going to win it.
Well, I don't know why they didn't give a little rollout, bootleg action option to run or pass to Max, or just do the Bush push. You know,
it's legal now.
It's legal. Just go with it. Do it. You know, don't worry about it. He got you there. Go ahead and do it. But a lot of credit needs to go to Kansas State too, because you know, that team. I had just seen them the week before against Kansas, and the Jayhawks didn't lay down. They gave them all they wanted. K-State, Kleinman deserves a lot of credit too, and Colin, his offensive coordinator, Colin Klein, did a marvelous job of calling that game, you know, for the Wildcats. And I tell you what else it did. It enabled me, okay, being the bastion of the underdog, right? It allowed me to put Tulane number 10 in my final college football state.
There you go.
That team. How about Willie Fritz?
Man.
And you know what? I'll always put a team outside the so-called power party in that spot, and they were incredible to avenge the loss that they did, to win the league the way they did, and now they get to go to the Cotton Bowl. And here's an early one for you guys. What is the line now? 4.5, 5 USC over
somewhere around there. Yep.
Take the wave right now, okay? Because USC could care less about being in that bowl game. Just historically, if they're not playing at least in Pasadena, you know, USC really doesn't care. UCLA was the same story when they were great. It's either the Rose Bowl or bust for those schools. Tulane will be playing like it's a championship beyond championship. So that's my early pick to the bowl season for you.
Yeah, well, if USC tackles like they did in the conference championship game, hell, us 4 could go out there and put up 35.
You know, Utah was a bad matchup for them, fellas.
Yeah,
Utah was a bad matchup, and I've told you in the summer they're the best team in the Pac-12. You know, UCLA gave them a great game, and that was one of the most memorable games Spencer and I had this year. I'd say the UCLA and Utah game at the Rose Bowl and the first meeting between K-State and TCU were probably our 2 most exciting games.
I remember watching that one. All right, Blaine, one from the Booster Club.
All right, let's go to Areem. It says, hashtag ask Tim. He says, how hard would it be for Jimbo to reload this year after having the season they did?
Well, the last game helps. Okay. I mean, the last game helps. You could see that it mattered a lot to the student body and the people that were in College Station at the end. And I guess we should not have been surprised that LSU was not ready for that game. How do you handle a full cup of success? You know, Brian Kelly laid a great foundation, and as we thought, they are going to win 9 or 10 games in year number 1. But Texas A&M's got material, or as Bino used to say, they've got material. You can turn it around. I think that as find a quarterback, number 1, okay, and allow for maybe another brain to start thinking offense with you. I think he needs to allocate some autonomy to someone he trusts to simplify this stuff, because you've got players in there for a year, maybe 2. A lot of them are in and out as the portal era gets underway, and learning that offense does take some time, the way he operates it. So, you know, listen, he didn't just fall off a turnip truck when he got to College Station. The man's a good football coach. But the hype surrounding them, it wasn't my thoughts about them back in the summer on your show that made some headlines. Listen, that wasn't an indictment of Jimbo Fisher. That was just basically me telling you that what goes on a lot of times in forecasting college football is just totally out of control, and it's all based on recruiting and how many 5-stars do you have. You got to have some grunts in there. Get some 12th men guys in there. Find some legacies. Oklahoma's got a very similar story, by the way, you know, and Venables knows it. None of those kids are invested in the Texas OU rivalry the way the players used to be at Oklahoma. You got to find some guys and develop them too. We hear about developmental programs. Kansas State's one, Iowa State's one, TCU. Just because you're a brand doesn't mean you don't have to think about being developmental. And I think that some of the proud programs with the big brand names need to understand that. A&M may be at the top of that list along with OU.
Yeah, no, I feel like you need a new pair of eyes there in A&M.
Mind if I throw one more out here?
Oh,
hey, Tim, I would be remiss with that beautiful winged helmet sitting over your shoulder if I didn't get your thoughts on the Michigan Wolverines going 13-0 for the first time in program history.
The helmet. When I die, I want to be buried in a Michigan helmet.
There he goes. That's Bo, reincarnate.
Latinoisms of all time.
13-0, first time in program history, Tim.
Can you imagine what Bob Ufer is saying in heaven right now?
I think
it's
so.
Unbelievable, those Michigan Wolverines. Did you see what that guy did at midfield? One of the most dastardly deeds by a Buckeye in the history of college football.
Dastardly.
It's insanity and it's an outrage. But look what Michigan is doing. The proud men of the maize and blue.
That's what I needed. That's what I needed.
Yeah. Well, we know Cone's going to be walking around fast around the building for the next 3.5 hours.
Here's one for you. Find someone to do. I might actually do it. Put together like a 3.5 minute parody radio broadcast of Larry Munson and Bob Ufer all doing play-by-play of the Michigan Georgia game. If that game is what we, if it could be what we think it is, look out if those two do meet in the championship game.
Hell, Munson may break 2 chairs this time if they did that.
They're bigger than we are. Hunker down, you hairy dogs.
Lindsey
They're so
Scott.
much bigger than we are. My God Almighty, and he's just a freshman.
Timmy B, hey, we're excited to get you back on for college basketball season as well. We love it here as we move toward March. We're already seeing some teams kind of bubble to the surface. It's always great to see you, my friend, and we appreciate you getting up. And look, if you're going to go play that Power 9, hit them straight and put them good.
Low and slow, with little expectation, and all of a sudden, 80 breaking it may come into play.
Sounds good. 80? Sounds good. Maybe one of those vodka freezes could get you maybe 75 or below. But we appreciate you, Timmy B. You're the best, man.
Always here for you, Jay. You know that. All the best to you guys. Happy holidays.
You too. Happy holidays, you and your family. Hey, everybody, what's up? Make sure you take a little time today and subscribe. Turn that notification bell on. Follow all our content. We're pushing out, getting ready for college basketball season as well. We got you covered like a warm blanket in a blizzard.